When was the last time you did something that would be considered bold? In order to understand what it means to act boldly, one should look no further than the life and times of the man we're going to examine today. He was born on October 27th, 1858. Coach Stooks was born on October 27th as well. As a child, he spent 5 months in Germany with a host family, and he learned to speak German. He was the youngest man to win the Nobel Peace Prize for negotiating a peace treaty between Russia and Japan. He once knocked out a gunslinger who was making fun of him because he was wearing glasses. He led the voluntary cavalry group called the Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War. His leadership was instrumental in the building of the Panama Canal, one of the wonders of the world. During his presidency, the national park system more than doubled. He was known to skinny dip in the Potomac River in the dead of winter. He once gave a 90-minute speech after being shot in the ribs. Theodore Roosevelt was the most interesting man in the world. Theodore Roosevelt was the boldest man to ever inhabit the White House. Whether it was big game hunting or slaying giant corporate monopolies, TR never backed down from a fight. As a child growing up in New York City, he was very sickly and suffered from asthma that was so bad the doctors told him that his condition would not allow him to live a full life. Instead of allowing his health to limit him, as a teenager he decided he would make his body. From that point forward, he lived what he would call a strenuous life, full of physical activity that helped him develop his rugged physique. This would be TR's approach to any and all obstacles that fell in his path throughout his life. He would overcome and conquer them. Teddy began his life as a public servant in 1881 when he was elected to the New York Assembly for 2 terms. His political career faced some serious adversity early on when on February 14, 1884, he lost his mother, Martha, to typhoid fever and his wife, Alice, to kidney disease. For most people, this personal setback would be devastating and would crush their ambitions. Not for Teddy. Instead, Theodore wrapped up his official duties with the state legislature, packed up his belongings, and at the age of 25, moved to the Dakota Territories to find himself. The Badlands of the Dakotas were as bold as TR, with the extreme beauty of the land and the extreme harshness of the winters. He bought a ranch and immediately had to earn the respect of his neighbors. He had to overcome the image of a city slicker, an aristocrat from the east looking to play cowboy. Once he settled in, he hired a guide to go on a buffalo hunt. There were only a few of these majestic animals still alive in the Dakotas, and he wanted to experience this aspect of the frontier life before it was gone forever. The story is that the hunt got off to a bad start, with torrential downpours, and the guide thought Teddy would give up. One morning they woke up and the area they were camping in had flooded, and TR looked at his guide and said, "Isn't this jolly good fun?" 9 days after the hunt began, Teddy killed his buffalo. The guide claimed that most hunters would have given up. Theodore Roosevelt did not accept failure. When he set his mind to doing something, he did it. Roosevelt greatly respected the life of a cowboy. No matter what the conditions were, a cowboy always got the job done. He would carry this cowboy way of life and philosophy into his political career. He finally left the frontier life, feeling he had learned what he needed to learn, and returned to the political arena in New York City. Roosevelt was appointed to the U.S. Civil Service Commission by President Harrison and took on the corrupt patronage system that had a firm grip on the government. He frequently clashed with even members of his own party. Later, he became president of the New York Police Board in 1895, where he angered party bosses by cleaning up the corruption and strictly enforcing the laws. TR was appointed Secretary of the Navy in 1897 by President McKinley. Following the explosion of the USS Maine in 1898, Starting the Spanish-American War, Roosevelt resigned his position and started an all-volunteer cavalry regiment known as the Rough Riders. This group was primarily made of cowboys and Indians from the Dakotas. He returned a hero and was elected governor of New York. As governor, he did not play by the party boss rules and quickly made enough enemies in New York to where they promoted him to be vice presidential candidate for incumbent William McKinley. Following the death of William McKinley, TR took his boldness to the Oval Office. One of his boldest moves was to take on the most powerful man in the country at the time, J.P. Morgan. When Roosevelt took on the Northern Security Trust, he was attacking not only the railroad monopoly, but also Morgan, who had contributed heavily to TR's presidential campaign. The case went to the Supreme Court, and the government narrowly won, earning Teddy the nickname of Trust Buster. The anthracite coal mine strike of 1902 reflected the bold heart of Roosevelt in regards to defending the common man. He averted a national crisis by intervening and actually came down on the side of labor versus big business. It was hard to imagine a Republican looking out for labor in this day and age, but Roosevelt led with such conviction that he represented the people of the United States, not a political party. He was not afraid to shake things up. Following the Spanish-American War, Roosevelt saw the need for a canal through an isthmus in the country of Colombia. When the Colombian government would not agree to a deal to build the canal, TR helped fund a revolutionary group. That revolutionary group was successful and later created the country of Panama, which in turn agreed to allow the U.S. to build a canal. The Panama Canal was one of the largest engineering projects ever undertaken. Roosevelt claimed he did not steal the Panama Canal. He built it. This was TR's major contribution to world civilization. After reading Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, which exposed the atrocious conditions in the meat industry, TR acted quickly. He passed the Pure Food and Drug Act in 1906 to protect the American consumer. He also passed the Antiquities Act, which halted the destruction of the American landscape. By the end of his term as president, he had preserved over 230 million acres of land. The National Park Service had more than doubled under his watch. Throughout his life, Theodore Roosevelt acted upon his instincts. He was not one to dip his toe in the water to wait and see what other people thought. TR was bold with everything he did, and he was instrumental in turning the United States into a world power because of his boldness. In closing, what will you do with your life to be bold? Will you start today? Just follow Teddy Roosevelt's lead and begin to take action and live your life boldly.